No border too big for Campbell's comments. You like that? Duncan McPherson, hello, mate.
Greetings from Stockholm.
It takes a little bit of organising these things. We said 5 minutes to take us to organise. We've been half an hour in the ER setting up. But this is terrific, mate, to catch you. You're in Sweden as we speak. This is 3:30. We're recording it. This interview is going to go up straight after we finish recording it, basically. So it's game day over there for Eliteloppet.
Yeah, it's game on over here, and the borders are lifted. Last year, I think they had 8 people at the Eliteloppet on race day. I think that the word is they've kept the crowd at 27,000 for today. People are already on their way out there. The buses are running, and it's a dry. Fortunately, it's dry. Yesterday was a bit wet out there, but the forecast here is 6 to 14 degrees. So they're all blaming the Australians for bringing the Australian winter to Sweden. So we've taken ownership of the Australian winter. But anyway, look, it's going to be magnificent, and a dry day today. I'll just see everything out there. Everything's green, everything's set up, and everything's ready to go. It's going to be so exciting.
We can talk all trotters, mate. I've got the harassed trotters jacket on. You can't quite see it there. I've actually got a hoodie on underneath. You can tell those guys in Sweden, there's not a hope in hell anyone in Australia is walking around in a T-shirt right at the minute, or especially in Victoria. What's the build-up like over there?
Look, we went out to dinner with some people on Thursday night. I got up here, flew up Thursday, 36-hour door-to-door, ripped out to Torben Janssen. We'll talk about him later. And then we went out with all the Dutch crew on Thursday night for dinner. The internationals are here. Probably not in the numbers from America and Canada, but definitely the Europeans have flocked here. And that was evidenced yesterday by the fact that the Italians and the French won quite a few races on yesterday's race program. So it is, as you say, game on, and people are talking about it. There's a buzz around town. There's girls running around in white suits with ATG and handing out Eliteloppet flyers at the central station here where the trains go. Mate, everyone knows it's on over here, and you can watch it on Channel 4 over here. So they're organised and they know what they're doing. Right,
we'll go with that website there for a start. So go to. I've only got the shortened version of it here as we speak, but myself and Duncan will go through a bit of a website in a minute. But atg.se is the actual website, so that's Sweden, obviously. You can click on a pink banner, but you actually sent me to a bit of a different page to get to where I am now, Duncan.
Yeah, and I didn't write it down, so I probably should have.
I think it was Eliteloppet 2022.
It was www.atg.se/.
Anyway, you will find it, because I found it. I actually found it another way through a pink banner, and this is the official betting site. Now, this one is in Swedish. I can't. The way I've been able to bring this website up, I can show you through the website, but I can't translate it to English. But you can actually. It's just a simple click of a button. When I went into the web browser,
click of a button. It's got an English translator on it, and it is the ATG is the betting organisation over here. But there's quite an extensive form guide. You can see all the races, you can watch the races, you can look up what's happened in the last couple of days, but the main thing is that they give you a rundown of the 2 heats, which are at 3:30 and nearly 4 o'clock this afternoon. So, and then obviously they've got the open betting for the overall final later on in the afternoon.
Absolutely. So they've got the results there. You can see on one side. The other one is the form guide. So the first pink banner people can see is the results from the previous couple of days. Then the next pink banner is today's form guide, if you like to be able to see it. But correct. Over here on the right-hand side, underneath those 2 buttons, which I don't know exactly what they're all about, that is a comprehensive form guide of every horse going through the Eliteloppet this year.
Yeah. So you get a full rundown, and obviously as people in Australia who've watched the races up here before, the barrier draw is all important, and who you get in your heat. So it's quite ironic that 2 previous winners of the Eliteloppet are both in the same heat, in Heat 1, which is Don Fanucci's who won last year, and Cockstyle a couple of years ago. So, you'd be pretty stiff to either party probably thinks they're a little bit stiff to draw a previous winner of the Eliteloppet, but that's the way the mobiles roll.
You don't have to win. There's only the 2 heats. What do you have to do? Top 4, or is it fastest times to get in?
Top. You've got to go. It's based on what we used to do for the Great Southern Star, which is what we modelled this on. It's the fastest times, and then over here, which is a little bit different, they actually draw their barrier. So if you win a heat and you run the fastest time, you get to draw your barrier for the final. Where we've put it as a random barrier draw back in Australia, but that's the only difference in the nuance. Essentially, the Great Southern Star is modelled on what happens over here.
can I throw you under the bus? If the other heat
throw me anywhere.
if the other heat winner goes no quicker than the second or third horse, do they have to wait their turn? Like, is it all on speed for where they draw?
It's place and speed.
Place and speed. So yep.
Place and speed. So you've got to be in the top 4.
No, but what I'm saying is so obviously the fastest heat winner, he gets
fastest heat winner draws the first marble. The second heat winner will draw the second marble.
Even though he might have been slower, 3 or 4 seconds slower than
my understanding is, and I could be wrong, but that's my understanding.
No, it is very, very important. I rang Louise Toulton just there before to find out if Pat was going to be across there to sort of showcase it.
Yeah.
I believe he's stuck in London. But the way the trotters, the globalisation, what yourself, what Pat and so many other people here in Australia now are embracing and trying to promote, these days are what it's all about, because this is just 100% pure trotting day, isn't it? And it's a pure celebration of the trotter.
Absolutely, and this is what this is all about as well. I mean, these wooden horses are in the souvenir shops in inverted commas, but we did go up and went up and caught up with Torben Janssen, who's been to Australia and the World Driving Championships. He's driven in winners at Moonee Valley and is well known to Chris Lang, because obviously Chris and Sharon stayed with Torbjorn when they bought Sundance Gift up here. So we went out and had afternoon tea with Torbjorn, and Torbjorn presented me with a wooden horse. But the symbolisation of this is it's a trophy that he won at a Drivers' Championship up here back in the 90s, and he's gifted it to me to take back to Australia as a memento of the, I think it's 10 times we've been up here, and we catch up Thursday afternoon, 3:00 every year in, year out, and he's 100 k's north of Stockholm, and we just love going up there and spending a couple of hours with the great man. He's a legend, he's a Hall of Famer, and we're quite privileged to have access to him at 3:00 every Thursday on the week of the Eliteloppet. So, he'd love to come back down to Australia, and it's one of those things. He's still driving up here, not training so much, but just a great man, and the stories and the wealth of knowledge that he has when you sit around and have afternoon tea is just mind blowing. So, absolutely tickle pink, and the wooden horse here, which Torben's gifted, will be pride of place at Aldebaran Park.
Have you missed it?
Have I missed what, Aldebaran Park?
No, being able to get across there, like you didn't get there last
year. The answer is yes, I miss Aldebaran Park because, as you know, we've got a business up here in Sweden, which is one of the reasons why I've come up. Have we missed it? Yes, of course we miss it, because, I mean, the opportunities and the people that we meet. I mean, yesterday we've caught up with, went to the sales the other night, we caught up with Terrier Melnas, who brought Ridgehead Cahors down. We had a couple of hours and a beer with Terrier. I caught up with Linda Hoyer, who's the head of stewards here, and I can talk about what they're doing up here. We've caught up with Klaus Kosch, who was instrumental in getting Sundance Gift up here and sending Ridgehead Cahors down there. He's now the CEO at the track in Copenhagen down in Denmark. We caught up with Stig Johansson, who was where Maori Time stayed. So, I mean, do you miss it? Yeah, of course you miss it. You miss the contact of all these great people, and we're very fortunate to be able to access them. And sit in the same room as them for lunch and dinner down here. So, it's just absolutely outstanding. And obviously the highlights for us are going and seeing Maori Time's foal that hit the ground as we got here, and then we'll go and spend probably 2 or 3 hours out at Manhammerster Terry on Tuesday before I fly back home, just pressing the flesh and talking to the team out there. They're obviously very busy. They had a yearling sale here the other night. They ran it through their website. There's no on-site bidding. But I mean, the interesting part of, and I know I'm jumping around a bit, the interesting part of their sale here that's on every year, they had a 97.83% clearance rate. The average price was 45,500 Australian dollars. But I think that there's 2 things we want to be aware of. They're selling tactical landing colts up here. They averaged 45,500. Or sorry, that's not true. They averaged 65,000 for the couple of lots that went through. But then the top of the sale was a Walner filly, who sold for 257,000. But these names, Tactical Landing and Walner, are known to people in Australia. So what I'm getting at is that they're buying horses like we are down home. Not so much Walner because he's not down there yet, but Tactical Landings are available in the Southern Hemisphere, and that's what they're selling up here. So if you told me that 10 years ago, we didn't have access to those stallions. So my argument with the people up here is we've got just as good horses down there, and when you're averaging 45.5 and we're in the 30s, we're not that far behind. So, the opportunity for them to invest in the Southern Hemisphere is one of the jobs I've got up here to try and get more interest down in southern hemispherical trotting.
Rightio. Now I've got to rein you back. You do this to me a lot. I've got so many places I've got to get you back a little bit. Maritime, firstly. Buy Readily Cash Colt. Looks a lovely colt.
Readily Express.
Sorry, Readily Express. Yeah. Very leggy horse by the looks.
He's a cracker. Her first foal up, he was a colt. And I've obviously dialogued and sent the photos down to Fred, and we've had a good chat about where we want to go and what we want to do, because we're in joint partnership together also with the stud here. The first colt will more than likely go to the sales here in July, now that we've got a second colt, and the intention will be that we race the second colt up here. Hopefully the first colt has enough interest to fund the second and the third. So, but I think that'll happen. So, wonderful outcome. 2 Readily Express, 2 colts, and the next one we're going to who's in the Eliteloppet today next. And I've got as been done before, Elderberry and Teal came down to Australia and dropped a Who's Who filly. So we've got one down there, and we're all cheering for Manhammer today with Who's Who. But that's the program for Maritime. We'll go and spend a bit more time out with her tonight, and also after the races, and also on Tuesday. And and just enjoy the foal, and just think how lucky we are to get here when it hit the ground.
You said there before about Who's Who, and he is racing in the Eliteloppet, and we're going to do a bit of what Duncan thinks, I suppose, of the runners towards the end of this interview with those, so stay tuned for that. It's one of the more unusual parts when we look at trotting bloodlines, and I've tried to break this down for so many years. I think it was Bold Eagle, raced till he was 10. Tomoko, he was a similar horse, raced till he was 9 or 10 years old, won 2 Eliteloppes. These horses over there, they continually run. It's such a totally different mindset, if you like, to what the Australians are used to, and people need to get their head around it. You've got a mare, you're going to serve a mare, you've got a mare in foal to a horse that's going to race today and potentially win the biggest race in the world. Well, one of the biggest races in the world.
We've got a foal in Australia by the 4th favourite in the Eliteloppet.
Wow.
So just get your head around that one. And the reason that's mind-blowing is we've got the foal. So the mare was served 2 years ago. So we've got to understand the planning, that not only we were allowed access to that stallion while he was still racing, but the planning that went around to get that mare in foal and then ship it down to Australia is logistically a challenge. But we're also privileged to be able to do it and have great partnerships with studs like Manhammer, where we can, have access to the best stallions that they've got while they're still racing. I mean, it is mind-blowing. So,
but it is one of those ones, Dunk, I want to try and break down these barriers, because people look at paces and they look at horses come from North America. If they've raced over 5, people say they're pretty much a claimer. They're not, but that's sort of the mentality that people have with the paces. Trotters in Europe, they race until they're 10, 11 years of age, but start serving, I think, from 5. Is that correct?
Well, they don't rate. We were talking to some people yesterday. So we sold Forshaw Elderbaron up here last year at the Manhammer sale.
Yep.
He was bought by a gentleman by the name of Leonard Algren, who we'll catch up with today. Leonard's got a couple of hundred horses in racing. He has 15 to 30 babies, and we spoke to his private breaker inner on the basis we wanted to know how Forshaw Elderbaron is going, because Forshaw Elderbaron is out of Elderbaron Teal, who's in Australia with the Who's Who. They don't race them as 2-year-olds. So the first time they'll race up here is 3, whereas in America, if you've got a top juvenile stallion, they're retired at 3.
Yep.
So there's a completely different mindset. I can tell you the 2-year-olds are going to be turned out up here. They're currently going 230, and in America, the 2-year-olds in America are going 155, 154. So there is completely different mindset on the training processes and the way they manage the horses up here versus the US.
And the whole farm management after that, because that's what I mean, like, for people, they've got to get their head around the fact that you see, as I said, I think it was Bold Eagle, raced through till he was 10, did he not? And that people.
He would have had 3-year-olds on the ground at that stage, so he was breeding from a 6-year-old onwards. He was breeding.
Whereas you see that in a pacing source from North America, and people say, well, you're using claimers, why would you even bother? But it's just...
it's just a different... You've got to understand the difference up here, and I mean, the American influence in the sales book here, and now the Swedish influence in the reverse in the American sales book, the genetics are closing down very quickly, and you can look in both books and understand that Yeah, Australia, we're not that far behind either when you think about where we're at. So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
The yearling sales, you said the average there was $45,000, the equivalent
Yep.
to Australia. 97% clearance rate, which is enormous. So they're all up there for legitimate sale, obviously, to get that sort of clearance rate. All good and well to see those sort of things, but were people, people you're talking to behind the scenes, were they happy with that sort of outcome?
There's a number of sales that are up here. This is not the premier sale; it is a sale.
Yep.
They specifically put this sale on so that there's activity and something to do for the people that are coming to visit. But they are genuine horses for genuine sale, and when they're paying, $250,000 for horses, then the people that are here are, if they're feeding them about it. They're also a lot younger than our horses, so the horses that are going through the sale ring here are last year's foals that are basically born between, say, February and May, and they're not even 12 months old, a lot of these horses, where you go to the sales in Australia and America and they're 16, 18 months old. So they're a little bit, they don't look as big, but they've still got a lot of growing to do. So, but it's a fair dinkum sale. It's called the Elite Auction 2022. If people punch in, Elite Auction, EL, and it's spelled AUKTION, Elite Auction 2022. Again, it's in English. You can access every pedigree, you can access every price, and you can see who's bought them and so on. And it's all online. So it's the whole catalogue is sitting there, and people can have a look at that and understand that, as I say, we're not that far behind genetically when you look at what's going through the sale ring up here.
Can you throw that catalogue back up in front of the camera? Because I've put to the I knew that's where you'd put it. I was watching you. Just come in even a bit closer if you like, and then people can actually you know what to type in. So once they look at it, they'll be able to see it. So if they type that in, they'll get it. Thank you very much, Dunk. You're going pretty good at this, mate. Actually,
we're getting better. We're getting better.
The picture looked better with that book in front of it.
Thanks, man. I've got a radio head. I already know that.
We've been talking about sales and the likes. I was actually in New Zealand for the weanling sale. So this is the way you're talking. It's the equivalent of a weanling sale.
A bit older. Yeah, they're probably 3 or 4 months older. So
the weanling sale. Yeah, so it was good. It's good actually. The sales in harness racing in general, like the average there, I think in New Zealand it was 11, was up to 15. So that's a good sign. Unfortunately, the trotters still didn't feature that well this week, but we'll work with that. We'll get around that.
Well, I mean, the trotters took a bit of a bath, but you've got some first season stallions down there, and you've got to be fair. You've got to give them a go. And the vendors were prepared to put it up and see what happens. We've all been there as stud owners, and your first year might be your best, but your fourth year might be pay time. So but that's the way it is. So and at least people are having a go in the Southern Hemisphere and making those offerings to people. So I think that it's a very important step. 10 years ago we weren't doing that, and I think hats off to the people that are doing it. And the Winter Woolly sale with Nutrients got some. That sale's got it's a mixed sale if you like, but at least people are there have got the opportunity to buy some weanlings as well. So I think that when I say to them up here that we're selling, the herd, the foal population in Denmark is 500. So when I was talking with Klaus Koch yesterday, Australia, New Zealand's foal population is way in excess of what they've got in Denmark. Yet we think, for whatever reason, that there'd be more foals born in Denmark, and that's just not the case. So that's why spruiking up here is paying dividends, because they're now starting to understand what we can do down there.
Wow, that's incredible. 500.
Yeah. A bit of information. There you go.
We are covering a lot of territory, and don't worry, I know where we're going back. The Rowe Cup, I was fortunate enough to be there to see Bolt for Brilliance. I don't know if he bolted for Brilliance, but Tony Hurley, he wound back the clock, because that was just breathtaking drive to watch. Were you guys able to actually see that over there?
Yeah, we watched it, and there's conversation about it, because one of the things I was talking with, I'll talk more with the Swedish Trotting Association today, because I'm a guest at lunch and the function with them. They're aware of Sunday Sun and Bolt for Brilliance up here, as they are aware of Majestuoso and others in Australia. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday, if you look at the fields, and I'm sure everybody will, there's quite a dominance of Swedish horses in this year's field. Previous administrators, if you like, might have limited the number of Swedish horses in the Eliteloppet to 6. I think there's maybe 10 this year, partly because the French aren't necessarily as supportive of the Eliteloppet as they may have been for whatever reason. And we've only got one American horse over here. So I think that Canadian horse, no Americans. August Funstead had the opportunity to bring one in, and it didn't measure up when he gave it a hit out of the Meadowlands the other week. But I think that what we're trying to do is, and as I say, one of my jobs is to make sure they're aware of Bolt for Brilliance, Sunday Stun, Majestuoso. And I've told them about last year's 3-year-olds and this year's 4-year-olds coming through. John Nissen's got his horse, Parisian Artiste's there. Obviously, Elderbaron Zeus, because she's got a Swedish mother, so there's a fair bit of interest in him. But there's, these are 3, 4, 5-year-olds or 4-year-olds to 6-year-olds now, and they're serious horses, and they are aware of them up here. And I'm hoping that if they can keep going, these horses down there, that who knows, with the lack of other horses coming here, then a ticket may be available to Southern Hemispherical horses in the next 12 months. You
see a horse like Highgrove and what he was able to do. He is I think I counted 7 Love Yous, which from where you are over on that side, that's huge for New Zealand racing, full stop. But I was fortunate enough to be in the back of the mobile actually and watch him up close, and he is raw and rare, and he's hot, and he's just brilliant to love watching him trot. But then you got these 2 fillies or 3 fillies that are chasing, like the depth in Australian harness racing. Like, he smashed the clock. We've got a Captain Treacherous filly out of a Better's Delight mare chasing him, all the way down. It's just terrific just to be able to watch the depth in our trotters in Australia. And they are regally bred as far as Love You, but we've also got Captain T's and that coming through as well. So it's just great.
I think the times and the spread of the good horses down there is what people are watching. Years ago, we might have had 1 or 2 good horses who dominated. Now we've got a spread of horses that are ultra competitive, and I think that whether they're Love Yous or CTs, and no one will really talk about that up here, but the other ones, the Muscle Hills and the other opportunity, the tactical landings that will come through, there's a lot to be very proud of as to what we're going to be achieving. And I firmly believe that within 3 to 5 years that, I can't see why, given the crop that are coming through and the ones that were there last year, why we can't have representation up here on a regular basis.
No, and I think Johnny Dunn, Robert would definitely be there. We'd be there with bells on. He'd be the first one on the plane, but I think they'd be happy enough to travel, and they've got a beautiful draft, a lot of trotters. Stewards, I could talk to you all day, and we always do this. Stewards go there before you mentioned the fact that you were talking to the stewards about, I suppose, different ways they're doing things.
Yeah, so Linda Hoyer, who's known to a few people down there who've come up here before. Linda's more or less in charge of the stewards and so on up here. All the horses that were in the elite lot entered quarantine last night at 6 o'clock. That's pretty tough on the Canadian horse because he got to Belgium on Thursday. He then flew to Sweden on Friday, stretched his legs yesterday morning, and he's now in quarantine. So it's quite ironic that they just move their horses here and don't think about it a lot, in inverted commas. But they've done that. And the other thing they've done up here is they've actually got a sniffer dog. So the new thing here is that there's a dog, he's about 2.5 years old. He's been trained to sniff urine and then detect strange smells, if you like, in urine. And we saw it. She had a video of it yesterday. They put down 5 cones. They tipped out 5 lots of water, in inverted commas. He went to each cone to smell what might have been under it, and then he went burlesque at the 5th cone, and it was a contaminated sample. So they're doing things up here that are mind-blowing, and it's all part of integrity of the sport. And I'm sure next year, if I can get the head of stewards from Australia up here to talk to the head of stewards in Sweden, there'd be a massive interaction of what's going on up here, and all good for our sport as far as integrity goes. Because as we know, it's the front and foremost of what we need to be in front of the public and punting public. Absolutely.
That's huge. He didn't. Yep. In fairness, you didn't even tell me that one. You just said, "I've got something to say about."
No, I wanted to keep that for you, but we we're actually going out to have a barbecue with Linda on Monday, tomorrow afternoon, with her out at her farm, where she's a bit like all the hero horses. She looks after all the horses when they finish their season for the Swedish training school here. So she ends up with 40 trotters on her farm for 2 months while they're all having a break from the Swedish trotting school. So we're going to go and have a look at all those horses as well tomorrow.
Mate, I should have been over there with you. I love that, and we've all been to the airports, well, maybe not all, but I was at the airport the other day, and the sniffer dogs just walk around. It would be so great just to see them at race meetings, taken as gospel that they're there, and I'm sure that would make a lot of people really think about how they do things. That's for sure. So
yeah, well, that's what they're doing here, and you've got to give it to them. They're they're on top of their game all round up here, and that's just another element that's been developed. And the technology and the way they've trained the dogs. There's other countries that are more or less in inverted commas hiring the dogs for the race series. So it is quite massive.
That's huge. Just quickly now, Dunk, the Eliteloppet itself. You're going to go across quite a few of the actual runners there. Would you say there's 10 Swedish horses, which is a little bit uncharacteristic?
I think there's 10. I think there's 8 or 10, but there's definitely quite a domination by them. Anyway, that's just the way the year's fallen, I suppose. So it is what it is. You have 2 heats of 8. One, unfortunately, there's a scratching in one of the heats. One heat will be run at around 3:30. The other one's around 4 o'clock. So I'm taking a bit of a punt out of the website that's there. But heat 1, Don Finucci Zet was a winner last year. He's picked on top in heat 1. He's about $5 for the final. He's drawn 8, which will test him. But he's a good horse and he's got some speed. So we'll see how he goes from there. Then the next, they then tip 8, 7, 1 and 3 in heat 1. 3 is Cockstyle. He's also an Elite Lot winner. And he's very fast out of the gate. So 8, 7, 1, 3 in heat 1. Heat 2, they've gone up here and we've had a look at them, and I'm not going to change what they say up here. 4, 7, 3, 2. So Hail Mary's very quick. She's $4.90 for the final. Vivid Wise is $9 for the final. Who's Who is by Maharaja, and obviously we've talked about him already for Manhammer. He's pretty much ideally drawn in 3, and you've got Admiral AS in 2. So I think that you'll find that the inside horses, 1, 3, 4, 3, 2, these sorts of horses that have got those draws, as Chris knows and others know in Australia, and also obviously Brent Lilly and that, the draw is all important. The camber on the track is quite massive as you come around that corner, and she's got a flat top on her, so they'll definitely be zipping down the straight, and obviously they don't want to leave it all. They've got to have a little bit left in the tank because they've got to go around again in about 2.5 hours time.
Right. Who's the Canadian horse? Because I've just been going through. So if you want to get onto the TAB app,
I knew you'd ask me that, and I should have been more attentive. Because he actually did his pre-training before he came here with Jonas Cernison, who's my trainer in America. So ironically, so while you're doing that, I'm going to try and find it and you can keep asking me questions for 60 seconds, and I'll see if I can beat.
For the people here in Australia who may or may not be aware, so the first heat is at 11:28, and the second
that's
heat,
your time.
Yep, and the second heat will be at 11:55. So that's Australian time. Add 2 hours on for the Kiwis. That's about 1:30, and anywhere else you are in Australia, you guys can work it out from that. But yeah, so and you can bet on those races. I don't think the last race is the final, and there's no betting. There's no betting on the final just yet because they haven't put those horses up. So
there is on the ATG site. It's got open betting for the final.
Yep,
and it'll obviously change when the heats are run and won. So you can actually bet on the final before the heats are run. So you can bet on the individual heat, and you can also bet on the final. So
for people here in Australia hoping to be able to watch it, I would imagine if the TAB is betting on it, you'll be able to watch it. You might have to get ready to flick between the red and the blue channels.
Yeah.
At that hour of the night on a Sunday night. But yeah, that'll definitely be there. They had the Swedish Cup on last night too, didn't they?
Sweden Cup was yesterday. Yep. The Italians won the Sweden Cup.
I don't know.
The Sweden Cup was 600,000.
Yep.
To the $100,000 to the winner. Divide by 7. So it used to be 6. It's now 7. The Australian dollar's crept up on the Swedish krona. But no, there were 3 heats. 3 heats. The first 3 go through. Final of 9, and then obviously back came down to draws, and he drew 1 and held him out, and the hood came off with about halfway down the straight, and away he went. So no, it's fantastic, and it's lovely to see the Italians running around the track and celebrating and doing what they do. So over here, if you do end up winning a nice race, you are allowed to run out on the track and run down the track and do all those sorts of things. not quite what we do back home, but they let people celebrate here in style. So no, that's awesome.
Have you found the Canadian horse?
I'm still going through it.
You still no.
I got some people are going to give me a hard time because they're going to say you should have already known all that. So
well, it's clearly not trained by a Canadian because I've gone through all the trainers' names and I'm like, nah, I'm in trouble here. So he still hasn't got it, so that's okay. I could have got it. You did send me some way I could have got it up. I can't remember how I did it though. So I'm not sure how you
bear with me.
I'm not sure how you sent it to me though. You didn't send it via text message because I've looked at that. He sends me things in all different spots. Mr. McPherson does, makes my life fun. I will say that keeps me on the hop. What was I going to say?
Well, let's just say it's something for everybody to look up. And I'm sorry that I don't know, and I should because I've been over it a number of times because we tried to convince Jonas Cernison to come across here as the groom so we could catch up with him, seeing he pre-trained it for the last week when it came down from Canada. So, but I mean, raced. It's just amazing. They race in Canada, 9 days in Jersey, jump on a plane, land in Belgium, have a rest, jump on a plane, fly up to Stockholm, stretch their legs, and they're in quarantine and ready to go today. So, yeah, just amazing.
No,
just amazing.
It is indeed.
I mean, the good thing about it is too, you've got all the, Orcus Vanstead's come over here to drive Who's Who. Orcus got a big stable in America. His horse didn't make it, but they put him on. You've got Orjan Kihlstrom. You've got all the top drivers over here, Daniel Redan, all the top trainers here. So it's a real gathering of the world's elite, if you like. So the McCarthys and the Dexter Dunns are still in America, doing what they're doing, while the Europeans and the Swedes are over here doing what we're doing over here. So it's a global sport, that's for sure. Just
very, very quickly, you say about it being a global sport, and you said about the Italians winning the Swedish Cup, and they're in there in their strengths. What is trotting? What is the depth of trotting in Italy like?
Look, it's not as strong as what it was in the 80s and 90s, but it's still a sustainable industry down there. And when you've got the big farms down there and the big training stables heading up for these races up here, you understand that they're as competitive as what we think we might be. So you don't hear about a lot about the Italians and the dominance of their horses, but if you go back through the stud books, there's enough Italian horses and enough Italian bloodlines going back into those heydays of the 80s and 90s that is still littered in the sales catalogues that are up here in Northern Europe.
I remember doing a podcast with Marika Eriksson, and she said something. I remember she said something about getting on a truck and heading down there for, I think it was like 5 or 6 days. I think it was like a big trip. So, yeah, it was actually...
Well, she's up here now. I caught up with her at the sales the other night. So she's working on a farm about 400 k's north of Stockholm. They're training 50-odd horses up there. She's been back for 3 months, I think. And again, you're walking around a sales complex and you bump into someone that you last saw at Cardigan in central Victoria. So you just got to pinch yourself, don't you?
Say hello to her from everyone, I reckon.
No, I did. I passed on regards from everyone in Australia, and she's looking really well, and she's enjoying being back home in inverted commas. And, she did 4 years away, which is a great stint. And the other thing I'm doing on Tuesday night before I fly out is I'm catching up with Stina Meidel, who was part of the exchange program for the students coming out of the University of Vongen. Stina now is a 3-year-old child, and it's 11 years since she was down at Aldebaran Park. So I said to her, we always catch up at the clock tower at 3 o'clock on Sunday on Eliteloppet Day. And she said, the prams, there are going to be too many people and the pram's going to get in the way this year because we haven't been up for the last 2. So I'm going to catch up with her out at the airport and meet her and her daughter, who I haven't seen, and the family before I jump on a plane. So, these are the sorts of contacts and the things that you've got to maintain. And, Marika and her had great fond memories of Australia, and our greatest advocates for our sport are the experiences that these kids have. So we're going to do that. I've also catch up with Dennis Engelbo. He was walking around yesterday with his wind sheeter on, but also promoting the fact that Aldebaran Park sponsors the Gold Watch, or the Gold Locken, which is the junior race drive series up here. So we'll do some interviews with him and extol the virtues of junior drivers and try and stimulate the exchange now that the world can travel again, to get some the kids that win the dominating junior ranks up here we'd like to, I've spoken to HRV and we want to try and get some of the junior drivers to come up here and have some experience. So it's another thing that we've got to talk about in the next 72 hours and see if we can get that back off the ground and resurrected.
Nah, very good, mate. As I said, you and I can talk for a long time. We haven't gone too bad. It's only been half an hour so far, but I reckon we could stretch it out a fair way very, very quickly too. For anyone wondering, 1:45 in the morning, so 11:23 is the first heat. Pardon me. 11:55 the second heat, and then 1:45 is the final, which take off 8 hours is roughly 3 o'clock. Is that right, Duncan? In the afternoon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So going to be a lot to do. Mate, thank you very much for joining me. Anyone wants to see about all the punting and that, go to that atg.se. There's a pink banner that says the Elite Lop. You can follow it off that. Translate it to English. You'll get all the updated information to sit back and enjoy trotting in its purest. There's 10 other races on the card, or effectively, I suppose there's 8 other races, but just be able to sit back and enjoy. And it's great that Sky have got them on. And thanks very much for joining me, mate, and really appreciate it.
No, absolute pleasure. And let's hope that next year there can be, the Australian contingent can have a bit of a groundswell, because with any luck, we'll get an invite for one of the Southern Hemispherical horses. And if anyone ever gets the chance to come up here, by all means, ring me, talk to me. I'll try and help people get here, introduce you to people. But it is just something that if it's on your bucket list, get it out of the bucket and let's go and do it. So they all know up here how important we are to the racing world, and I think that we've got to keep doing what we're doing. So thanks for the opportunity, Paul. Look forward to a great day out here and a great next couple of days catching up with everybody. So as they say in the classics, and I'll put a bit of social media on. I'll put some photos on some Facebook pages so people can get a bit of an understanding of the atmosphere and what it visually looks like up here, if you like. And then, we'll just look forward to getting home on Wednesday and getting back into it. So we're hot to trot at Aldebaran Park, and I'm sure that we'll pat that maritime foal and look forward to him hopefully heading down to Australia in 4 or 5 years' time.
Those pictures, very quickly, I'm going to say goodbye to you, Duncan, but you sent me through a heap of photos. They were from yesterday. So that's the sort of crowds, because people can see the crowds there. That is not Elite Lop Day. That is the Swedish Cup Day, the lead up.
No, I'll do today's, and I'll do some videos and bits and pieces. So I'll do some social media posts tonight at some stage, just so our time, so that everyone can get an understanding of how big this thing is over here. And 27,000's the capped crowd, and look forward to being part of it.
Don't do too good a job. I want to be able to jump on a plane next year. See, so if you do too good a job, I might not be able to get use that as an excuse to get across there.
We'll worry about that when the opportunity arises, mate. So we'll see how we go. But no, thanks, Paul. And, hope everyone in Australia enjoys some engagement with the Elite Lop 2022. Good luck and look forward to being back there.
Thank you very much, Dunk.
Righto, mate.